What's up, everybody? Forgive my yet another candid camera appearance. I'm having some issues with my other camera setup with Riverside, so it's just going to be this for now. But just wanted to update you on a couple different things. There hasn't been a whole lot going on in the TSW community until recently. And on top of that, I just realized that tomorrow will be my 2-year anniversary of being completely steroid free. It's kind of otherworldly having that realization, but things have been going well. This is the first time I've been able to wear shorts and go run around and sweat since 2022, which is wild. And I've learned quite a lot about it. I'm obviously still not 100% normal, but this is the closest I've ever been. I've had some pretty scary flare-ups a couple weeks ago, but I just sat at home, rested, and the flare-ups went away. And they're looking more and more like eczema and less like TSW, which is something I can say with scientific backing now. If you've been watching the previous videos and you know about Ian Miles's study with the NIH, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, I feel like taking that time for my body to actually heal from a flare-up instead of immediately pouncing on it and putting a cream on it or thinking I need to go to the doctor, that realization really hit me the other day, because it's like, if I had just done this, I wouldn't be in this whole situation to begin with. So that being said, there is a really cool update. I've got my nifty laptop here, and there was an article in the New York Post about topical steroid withdrawal, and it is featuring our very own OG, Kelly Barta. So the title of the article is "The Scary Condition Sufferers Say Traps You in Your Own Half-Alive Corpse. It's caused by a medication taken by millions." That's a pretty good title. I think it captures what we're going through pretty well. So thank you, Mackenzie Beard, for publishing this article. So let's go down. We're starting with Kelly Barta. Kelly Barta was turning red. It was 2012, and the 38-year-old mother of two had just quit the topical steroids she'd used for nearly 30 years to treat her eczema. Within days, she was crimson from head to toe, tormented by searing pain and a bone-deep itch. I apologize if you hear noises out there. There's construction going on. Quote, "It literally felt like someone poured boiling water over my whole body," Barta told the Post. "The burning wouldn't let up for 5 years, and in that time, she lost her career, her marriage, and nearly her life." Yeah, so really want to drill this home to people. This is not just some itchy skin condition. This is a life-altering, potentially life-destroying condition. And of course, here's the photo of Kelly Barta in her red phase, which is just appalling and unacceptable. Barta was battling topical steroid withdrawal syndrome, a debilitating condition some face after quitting high-potency creams used in treating skin issues like eczema. And this is going to happen with lower potency. I was on mid-potency, and this still happened to me. So just putting that out there. Common symptoms include intense burning, redness, itching, and skin shedding. Many sufferers are bedridden or housebound for months or even years before the effects begin to subside, according to the International Topical Steroid Awareness Network, which supports those affected. From childhood rash to decades on steroids, roughly 10% of the US population, about 31.6 million people, live with some form of eczema, the most common chronic inflammatory skin condition in the country, according to the National Eczema Association. Barta was diagnosed as a child when patches of itchy, red, and irritated skin bloomed behind her knees and in the crooks of her arms. Same with me. She managed it with moisturizers and a hydrocortisone cream until she became a preteen, when the onset of puberty and the hormonal fluctuations that came with it caused her eczema to grow worse, spreading to her hands and her neck. There's a lot of bullying around skin conditions because it's associated with infectious diseases. So being in middle school, all I wanted was to look better, even more than feel better, Barta said. That is totally on track with my experience. I've had so many people ask me when they saw me in the throes of my TSW or even eczema, like, is that infectious? If I touch you, am I going to get sick? I can't blame people because it's built into our very cores to make sure that we're not going to get infected with some weird disease. But when you are going through that, especially as a child or especially as a woman, I would say this, where, you know, you're going to work and you're expected to look perfect and have your makeup on all the time. This is just nuts. And this steroid use plays right into that. When she went to a dermatologist and they prescribed her topical corticosteroids, the effects were almost instant. Quote, within a couple of days, the rash cleared up and I felt a lot better too, Barta said. I ended up managing my skin like that for 26 years. Okay, next part. Thin skin, big trouble. Topical corticosteroids are some of the most common treatments for eczema, with one multinational study finding that 91% of people affected by the condition had used them. Though generally considered safe and effective when used for short periods, the body can build up a tolerance to topical steroids over time, requiring stronger doses to clear the skin. When Barta's eczema would flare, doctors kept upping her prescription until she was on one of the strongest formulas on the market. This is just absolutely nuts. And she did this for 26 years, going to doctors. There was no issue then, right? So if this stuff is good to use in the short term, totally safe and effective, but be careful, then why are we letting people do this for decades? It's just dumb. She spent 10 years on the heavy-duty cream and developed new allergies along the way, including to fish and latex. Quote, I know steroids can thin the skin, and my idea was maybe these things in the environment are getting into my bloodstream and I'm becoming hyperactive, Barta said. I was getting to the point where I would put my hand in my purse and come out with hives, she added. That's nuts. Quote, you're imprisoned in this body with unrelenting pain. I remember thinking, don't try to get to tomorrow, just survive the next hour. Yeah. This is totally it. This is how I survived, is like, don't think, just keep my world small. I remember hearing about Navy SEALs going through Bud's class, and they was just like, make it to the next meal. So I was like, hearing that, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do that. I can't wait till I have my breakfast. Then I just got to sit and wait till lunch and just keep waking up every day. That's how bad it is, that every waking moment is excruciating pain. That's what this is like. And you have to endure it until it's over. Until we find better treatment, of course.
The JP Touchette podcast is brought to you by Compadre. Love every walk. Do you have a strong and willful pulling dog? Well, not anymore. Compadre, the makers of the patented no-pull solution, have created a humane harness and leash system to help train against pulling and lunging behaviors. Compadre believes that you don't have to hurt a dog or break their beautiful spirit in order to get them to be good citizens on a leash. Gentle corrections around the strongest part of a dog's anatomy, the chest, means that you can guide and train your dog without painful pinch collars, e-collars, or choke chains. This system helps you to gain your dog's attention and lead them to walk calmly beside you. And if you use promo code JPT2025, you can get 10% off your order. And I can tell you from experience, you'll be glad you did. Seriously, guys, I have actually had a chance to try this myself, not on me, but on a big dog with a huge personality and a lot of energy. And this is a legit product that I actually believe in, and I believe in the owner's mission as well. This is an excellent company, and if you want to change the way that you are walking with your dog, this is the way to go. So if you want to see why dog trainers, pet owners, and vets love Compadre, then visit compadre.com. That's COMPAWDRE.com. Thanks, y'all. Peace.
Barta said her general practitioner dismissed her concerns, insisting she'd have to use topical steroids for the rest of her life to keep her eczema at bay. But a pharmacy tech at Costco flagged the dose. She didn't say anything other than, be careful you're not overusing this, Barta said. But what does overusing mean? We don't know this yet. The label warned against using the cream longer than 2 weeks unless directed by a doctor, which hers always did. That's a big caveat, she said. Most doctors feel like this is perfectly safe to use forever. So this is what I'm talking about. There's this huge disconnect between what the pharmacist is saying or the manufacturers of this drug is saying and what the doctors are saying. It's two completely different worlds until we get this word out there and the studies that Ian Miles did at NIH are put out so everyone can see it. This is just going to keep happening. There's just this wild disconnect, this weird veil between reality of using this cream for some people and what the doctors think is totally fine. I don't get it. And now there is less and less of an excuse to keep that behavior going on because now we have evidence. And Barta wasn't alone. The same multinational study found adult eczema patients use topical steroids for an average of 15.3 years. That's nuts. That's nuts. 3/4 applied it 1 to 2 times a day, and half use it between 15 and 30 days each month. Shaken, Barta began researching. She discovered that while corticosteroids are intended to reduce inflammation, they can sometimes provoke a hypersensitivity response, triggering or worsening allergic reactions, according to ITSAN, the International Topical Steroid Awareness Network. Quote, if you have people on steroids for decades, we might look better, but what's actually happening internally, she wondered. Burning alive, this is the next part. And man, this triggers me, but we're going to keep going through it. Barta found a Canadian study suggesting barrier creams could cut topical steroid use, so she started weaning off, switching to jojoba oil and mango butter. 3 months later, Barta quit steroids entirely. Within 36 hours, her skin went haywire. Quote, I started to burn so badly that I couldn't sleep, she said. I was up on the couch all night, breathing like I was in childbirth. And there's a photo. God, I know exactly what that's like. It's absolutely insane. A frantic Google search led her to a topical steroid withdrawal support site and a list of familiar symptoms. Quote, I checked all the boxes, Barta said. At first, red splotches appeared where she'd applied the cream most. Then the splotches spread. Eventually, her entire body burned and itched relentlessly. I was bedridden for 1.5 years, Barta said. During that period, she lost her hair, developed a cataract, gave up her music career, and could barely care for her young 2 sons. Quote, you think you're getting help, and then you end up 100 times worse off than you were before. Yeah, this here is insane. The first part where she's talking about just a quick Google search, what I don't understand, okay? And I totally understand if you're a doctor and someone's being, a dunderhead in your office and, they're going to be Dr. Google and they're being rude. I get it. But if someone is coming to you patiently, kindly, and saying, look, doc, I feel this thing. I looked this up. It's a real thing. Thousands of other people are going through it. Don't you think if you're a doctor and you want to help and you care about your patient, you would at least just Google search it? You don't have to agree, but just look it up. And that's the thing I don't understand is I hear a lot of people come to the doctor with they're like the kindest people in the world and they're burning alive while they're doing this, but they come in with like research papers, with articles, with all sorts of things, and the doctor just throws it to the side. And I don't get that. I mean, if you're a doctor and you're listening to this, again, you don't have to agree with it, but if someone comes to you with some sort of data, doesn't have to be evidence, but just like data that's legitimate, at least pretend to look at it, or at least pretend to, just so you can make the patient feel listened to. I think if you at least do that, you don't have to be on board with the whole TSW thing, but if you at least do that, you're going to solve so many problems. Because at least the person's going to come away from the doctor's appointment feeling like they spoke to a professional who was willing to listen to them instead of gaslight them or ignore them. All right, so continuing on, she spent days cycling between bed and bath, lying naked on towels as every moment tore open her cracked skin. And here's a photo of her when she was going through eczema herpeticum, where she got serious infection, had to go to the hospital. because that's what can happen. You know, your skin is relying on this product, this drug, to keep it intact. And then without that, your skin is now absolutely freaking out. You know, I like to say this often. It's like, if you want to imagine what TSW is like, take a person and skin them. You got it. That's what they are. They look like they look like a crustacean, and that skin is not protecting them anymore. That's what your skin's supposed to do, is protect you from the outside world. It can't do that anymore. So infections, dust, irritants, anything, you don't even have to be allergic to it anymore, and it can flare you up or get you sick, like Kelly. Insomnia hit next, followed by sharp, stabbing nerve sensations and thermal dysregulation that left her shivering under a feather duvet and 90-degree Georgia heat. Yeah, insomnia and stabbing nerve sensations. We call them zingers. That's one of the things when I interviewed Ian Miles, he was saying that, you know, eczema has been described since ancient Egypt. It was written down on papyrus. At no point did they say that there were zingers and electric zapping going on in people's skin. That's not part of eczema. It's wild. And on top of that, they never describe the level of thermodysregulation that goes on with these people. I remember I was either burning hot or shivering cold, like it was a fever, and this lasted for months. And I remember convulsing because my entire body was just out of whack, completely out of whack. That's just, I've had eczema throughout my childhood, and I didn't use topical steroids to that level as I did when I was a young adult. And I never had anything like that. When I was going through TSW, it was so apparent that stuff hit different. She lost 40 pounds. Doctors ran tests and came up empty. One physician searched the internet for information during her appointment. Quote, "No one really knows what's going on," Barta said, adding that many TSW patients get dismissed by doctors who mistake their symptoms for severe eczema and just prescribe more topical steroids. Okay, so if you're interested, I posted a video maybe a month or so back on the fact that Ian Miles' study on distinguishing eczema from TSW was now out. It's now available for everybody. You can go see it. If you're a doctor and you're interested in this subject, you can go look that up on the NIH, or you can go on one of my videos and click the link. I put the link in the interview and in subsequent videos. But now there's, as I said before, less and less of an excuse to say that this is severe eczema, because now you can look at a real paper and it will show you that there are some different things, and you can maybe do some tests to find out. I don't know. I'm not the expert, but this is just the thoughts coming through my head as I read this. Family members also urged her to go back on the medication, but she refused. Quote, "On a gut level, you know that thing has been slowly poisoning you," she said. "Why would you go back?" Barta was housebound for 3 years, losing her husband of 21 years along the way. With her skin barrier weakened, she caught a deadly eczema herpeticum infection and nearly died in the hospital. And there she is with her 2 beautiful sons. Hell yeah. Look at her now. Amazing. Slowly, she grew stronger and the pain eased as her body began to heal. Still, it took more than 1,780 days for the burning to finally subside. And 13 years later, she's still recovering. But you don't need decades on topical steroids to develop TSW. And here we are to the next part. Oh yes, I know this lady. This is Jada Jones, was also diagnosed with eczema as a small child. She had mostly outgrown it by middle school, except for a few patches on her neck. When a dermatologist prescribed a mid-strength topical steroid, her skin cleared up fast. Quote, "I was no longer struggling with eczema at all, or so I thought," she said. In reality, you can't really tell what's going on. Jones used topical steroids on and off until her junior year of high school, when stress triggered a bad flare-up. After learning of TSW online, she told her dermatologist she wanted off the medication. And there's a photo of her now, almost completely cleared up. Good for her. And I think she went viral just by talking about her experience. I remember seeing videos of her going through. It was just absolutely wild. Quote, my dermatologist said, you're young, you're never going to have to go through all that. And then I got boosted to class 1 steroids, the strongest ones, she remembered. Quote, after being reassured that I wouldn't have to go through this condition, it was just sort of like, okay, fine, I'll listen to my doctor. Quote, they're looking at you like you're damn near a burn victim. Yeah, well, you kind of are. Jones's skin stayed clear for 3 years with occasional topical steroid use. She moved from Charlotte, North Carolina to LA, pursuing acting and content creation, and met her partner, Chris. Then in June 2022, her skin took a terrifying turn. Quote, it sort of looked like spots that turned into bigger purplish reddish bruising, she said. It looked really, really odd. It didn't look like eczema. Again, it's like we're not doctors and we can tell this is totally different. After searching online, she discovered the potent topical steroids she'd been using might be playing a role. There she is. Yep. Booked for a 3-day photo shoot, she made it through the first day, but her skin felt like it was on fire. She stayed home the next morning. I was bedridden from that day on for the next 3 or 4 months, Jones said. It was so crazy to realize that, oh my gosh, I think this is the one thing they said couldn't happen to me. My body was forever changed from that moment forward, she added. 6 years after her first topical steroid prescription, she vowed never to use them again. What ensued was pure torture, both mentally and physically. A nightmare no one could fix is the next part. Soon her whole body was red, inflamed, and in excruciating pain. She could no longer work and needed full-time care. Yeah, again, that's the thing. Not just some rash, not just, something you're going to get over in a month or so. This is serious stuff, man. Quote, I became this sort of nightmare because we didn't know what to do, Jones said. She tried traditional Chinese medicine and other comfort measures with no relief. Aside from loved ones, the online TSW community was her lifeline. And that's interesting to say that her traditional Chinese medicine didn't work for her. Treatments seem to be arbitrary for how they work for each person. And maybe she wasn't with the right TCM doctor. I don't know, but we need to find these things out, like ASAP. Quote, with TSW, the most unfortunate part is that once it starts happening, it just has to take its course, unless you go back on topical steroids, which could just prolong the situation even more, Jones said. Like Barta, she suffered deep, relentless itch, nerve sensations, thermoregulation issues, and cracked, oozing skin. At her annual checkup, her doctors were baffled. They're looking at you like you're a damn near burn victim, Jones said. You really have no idea how to advocate yourself, but you're clearly sick and need help. And look at her right there. That is absolutely nuts. I mean, does that look like just normal eczema to you? I don't understand. Like, unless I don't get it. Maybe I'll never get it. But anyways, her battle with TSW forced Jones and her partner to leave California and return home to North Carolina for Her battle with TSW forced Jones and her partner to leave California and return home to North Carolina for a year. Symptoms settled, then flared in cycles. Quote, no one will ever truly grasp the horrifying, never-ending ordeal that is enduring a condition that traps you in your own half-alive corpse with no escape. Yeah, that's that title quote. I just think that really captures it. In late 2023, she heard a fellow sufferer found relief in Tulum's healing seawater. Okay. I wasn't in too bad of a state at that time, but I was also risking my body going backward, Jones said. She and her partner went to Mexico, where her skin improved, then regressed. She too got a major infection that left her bedridden for a month. Again, this just keeps coming up over and over and over again. It's like if you treat your skin like normal skin during TSW, you're going to get infected. I mean, your skin is just asking to be infected. It's like your whole body's an open wound, and bacteria just is attracted to it, and it goes right in. There's no defenses. So, yeah. Quote, at that point, I was really, really confused. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to live anymore because it was just too much, especially after seeing that my body was getting better at one point. Doctors said topical steroids were the only option. Instead, she took to the sea. I started forcing myself into the ocean, Sometimes that could have been so dangerous, but it ended up working out for me, she said. Still fighting, but living again. She then traveled to Thailand for cold atmospheric plasma therapy known as CAP, which has been shown to reduce inflammation, fight infection, and accelerate recovery for those with TSW. And I've interviewed several people now that have been to that specific CAP clinic in Thailand. If you're interested in listening to the podcast with them and hearing their stories, go right ahead. I can link the videos in the description or put them wherever. I think that's important because I actually do think that that machine works. And even more importantly is the guidelines other than the treatment, which I used at home. Without that machine, they have their own rules and regulations for what you should do. And I've explained that in videos before, and it really, really, really helped me. Doesn't involve spending a lot of money, doesn't involve fancy products. It just involves discipline and time, and it works. Quote, this clinic doesn't have a website or anything, so it sounds like rinky-dinky, scary, and weird, Jones said, but when you're at this dire point in your life, you're willing to do anything. Now, I will say this is true. The Thailand CAP clinic does not have a website. It's run mainly through a WhatsApp, so it does seem kind of sketchy, but that's because in Thailand, they're literally legally not allowed to advertise that clinic as a medical clinic. It's supposed to be a salon, but they're just helping people. And so, yeah, it's a legitimate place. If you want to look into it, there's many people who have done testimonials, like I said before, on my podcast as well. Quote, it's beyond skin deep. It affects every aspect of your professional life, your social life, your personal life, she added of her condition. Jones spent 9 months in Thailand. It was really, really intense, but it helped regenerate my skin and sped up the healing process a bit, she said. Terrified to return to the US and lose access to CAP, she was relieved to find a fellow sufferer in Asheville who owned the machine she could use. Joan hasn't had CAP therapy since January, now managing her skin with red light and infrared therapy daily. My skin right now is like very mild eczema symptoms that I would rather tolerate for the rest of my life than to ever go through that again. No one will ever. Now, 23, Joan's energy has finally rebounded and she's living a fuller life. And I'm pretty sure this is actually in the clinic in Thailand because I recognize the room style and the machine style. I just want to quickly touch on this. If you think that you can just go to any sort of CAP machine anywhere in the world, I would be very careful with that. It doesn't mean it's impossible. But the reason why I say that is because the CAP machine in Thailand, in the UK, and in Singapore, those all come from a gentleman by the name of Dr. Chanchai, and he spent something like 15 years on research and development on the specific way that it works for this specific type of TSW skin. So, and me, myself, I tried a different CAP machine that was in my home state just to try it out, and I didn't find it to be that helpful. And I know several people from the CAP clinic, one of whom said that she tried many different machines and none of them worked. So just be really careful before you spend your money on CAP clinic sessions. Make sure that you can verify that this machine has worked with people for specifically TSW. That's the worst thing. You don't want to waste your money while you're going through this. Quote, it's like you realize that it was never worth it to be on those meds in the first place, but who could have told you any better, she noted. Life beyond steroids is the next part. While TSW is a well-documented phenomenon, reaching into its causes, effects, and treatment is still limited. Without consistent diagnostic criteria, doctors often mistake TSW for a severe eczema rebound, according to ITSAN. Yep, we've said that multiple times in this video, but that is the issue that is preventing people from getting the care they need. While topical steroids can be safe when used correctly, that is true, companies like Foilex offer alternatives to help people manage their skin. Their active relief I'm not reading that. I'm not reading about any products, for I know that they actually work. that's kind of, I don't know if I actually like that they are plugging a product at the end of this. The important part is the story. I'll leave that part of the article if you want to check out that product, but I'm not gonna promote any product without knowing it's legit. So that's it for today. I hope this inspires any of you listening to make a difference, whether it's for TSW or any other cause that you deem to be noble. Because I guarantee you that, people like Kelly Barta, they're all around. These heroes are just waiting to blossom and bloom. And you can get featured in a nationwide newspaper like we just saw today if you just put your mind to it. There's also other ways to make a difference with specifically TSW. You can download the template kits on itsan.org, itsan.org/advocacy. If you download those kits, they tell you exactly how to contact your state senator in the US so you can make a topical steroid withdrawal awareness resolution, which I did in the state of Maine. It made me feel great, and I feel like I made a difference. So I think we need to celebrate every win that we get, no matter how small, but I think this one was pretty big. So thank you, everybody. Bye for now.